views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Protect your business from the fastest growing crime of the 21st century. Find out here. You're watching Technology Review. Hello and welcome to Technology Review. I'm your host, Mack Jackson Jr. This week for September 21st, 2019. I would like to thank everybody that's been a part of our show here on Technology Review. We have listeners and viewers from around the world with their questions and concerns relating to cyber security awareness and how to protect themselves and their family from the fastest growing crime of the 21st century. Your company can reach our demographics and by becoming a sponsor of Technology Review. You can do that very simply by contacting me at MackJacksonJr.com or giving us a call at 702-868-0808. I'd like to thank some of our sponsors for being part of our show, including Graphic Imaging Services here in Las Vegas, and the Innovation Center at Switch, being part of Technology Review. Technology Review is a leading-edge cybersecurity awareness consulting firm that brings information to consumers and businesses on how to protect their company and themselves from cybercrimes. Being a part of our community here at Technology Review, we can provide you with information on cybersecurity, tips, stories from our viewers, information. There's polling that we do, news reports, legal news, and regulations that can affect you and your family, and of course your business. But this work takes a lot of time and resources, folks. Here's where you come in. You can help us here at Technology Review by becoming one of our sponsors at Patreon. Patreon is at www.patreon.com/MackJacksonJr. That's patreon.com/MackJacksonJr. In today's episode, we're going to talk about understanding cybercrimes, especially identity theft. Every week, we want to bring you information on identity theft and how to protect yourselves from this crime. We'll talk about also cybersecurity news, what's going on in the latest that affects you and your business and your personal privacy from around the world. And we'll also talk about cybersecurity apps that can protect your devices and cybersecurity awareness training. In understanding identity theft is when someone, usually a cyber hacker, wrongfully obtains and uses another person's personal, identifiable information in a way that involves fraud or deception. Usually it's typically for financial gain. Ransomware is one of the fastest growing types of cybercrimes that have hit businesses from across the country. Ransomware is a deceptive technique that hackers use to freeze or seize your laptop or smartphone and make it so it is encrypted. All the data is encrypted on your machine. The only way to unencrypt it is by paying a ransom to the cyber hacker. By paying this ransom back, sometimes you can get your data back, sometimes you do not. And if you even pay them, there's no guarantee that they won't come back again. So there are some ways you can do to protect yourselves. More than just doing backups, you have to do the opposite of the backup, which is the restore, which we'll talk about that later in our show as well. Cybercrimes and data breaches are on the rise, folks. They have increased tremendously because of technology and the new types of technology that's available. Identity theft is a form of a cybercrime, and it has affected everyone, folks. Everyone. Cyber hackers are looking to obtain your personal identifiable information to commit these type of cyber crimes. Ways that identity theft can cause harm to you. First of all, your information to a cyber hacker is like gold. The information a cyber hacker uses, he takes this information and acquires it by breaking into different companies, trying to put together a puzzle, or if you would, a jigsaw puzzle of you and your personal identifiable information. The cyber hacker will then take this completed puzzle of you, of the victim, and sell it to other hackers from around the world for untold amounts of monies. Your information can be used by other hackers to pretend to be you, to get credit, or to form illicit acts as well, because now the hacker has an identity they can hide behind to commit this type of crime. So what this could do is leave a criminal record in your name that you now have to prove that wasn't you. But one of the most intriguing things and most dangerous part of the cyber crimes is when your medical insurance is used and acquired by a thief, and then medical insurance records are created with your name, because the hackers are trying to avoid paying the cost of skyrocketing medical bills. They would use a victim's medical insurance records to obtain medical health care. If this happens to you, you could have untold numbers of bills relating to health care, but the worst thing about this, folks, you could also have drugs that you are allergic to or could be more fatal. It's important that you make sure that you check your medical records as well with your health care coverage company, making sure that there's not any transactions in your health care records that you did not obtain or you're not involved in. It can also help or hurt you, that is, having your identity stolen when you are applying for a job or when you're going to college. If your identity is stolen by a cyber criminal, it can affect your job, and it can affect you buying a home or house or going to school. And of course, the most physical part of it is the emotional distress coming from a cyber attack. But there are some things you could do. One, folks, make sure that you run a credit report with the 3 credit reporting agencies. Make sure you check your credit. If you see anything fictitious on your credit, report it immediately. There are some steps that you could do that's deeper than that. Once you find your information been exposed, you can contact us for more information regarding that. When it comes to Wi-Fi, make sure you do not use any unsecured hotspot location in a coffee shop or hotel or library or any of those places without having a VPN installed on your device, which we'll talk about that in our next segment. Also, review all your transactions from your financial institutions. Look for anything suspicious. And I suggest having an app on your phone from your financial institutions that will allow you to review your statements on a daily basis if need be. Weak passwords. Weak passwords, folks, are the #1 way that hackers can get into your system and making you more vulnerable to cyber attacks. It's very important you have a passphrase set up on your system to avoid this type of cyber attack. Passwords, folks, are tremendous, and they're simple, easy to do, and we'll talk about that in our next segment, ways you can protect yourselves from it. Also, update your antivirus software on your devices as well from your manufacturers and your iOS to keep you updated with what's going on. Those are some of the things, folks, you can do to protect yourselves from identity theft. In our next segment, we're going to talk about cyber news, folks. Until then, we'll be right back, folks, after these messages.
Identity theft happens. It's an unfortunate fact of modern life. But there are certain steps you can take to help keep your personal information from falling into the wrong hands. Every day you do things to protect what's most important to you. And you know what? You do them almost automatically. Routine things like looking both ways before you cross, brushing your teeth, and buckling your seatbelt. Another routine to get into is keeping tabs on your identity and personal information. Here are 5 easy ways you can do it. Read your credit card and bank statements carefully and often. Know your payment due dates. If a bill doesn't show up when you expect it, look into it. Read the statements from your health insurance plan. Make sure the claims paid match the care you got. Shred any documents with personal and financial information. Review each of your 3 credit reports at least once a year. It's easy and it's free. And before you know it, protecting your personal information can be as routine as locking your doors at night. For more tips and tools on dealing with identity theft, visit ftc.gov/ID theft. That's ftc.gov/ID theft.
Hi folks, welcome back to Technology Review. I'm your host, Mack Jackson Jr. This segment is called Cybercrime News, and these stories relate to news that are going on relating to cybercrimes that can affect you personally and your business. Recently, Equifax had a data breach that affected over 140 million victims, having their personal identifiable information exposed. Did you also know that there was a settlement that Equifax concluded with the Federal Trade Commission of over $700 million to compensate consumers for this particular type of data breach? If you recently have registered with the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, with a claim that states that you were a victim with this Equifax data breach, that you'll be eligible for a $125 check sent to you in your name because of this breach. Or you could have 6 months of credit monitoring service. Most people go for the $125. However, there's a catch. Recently, the Federal Trade Commission sent out letters to consumers stating that this information may have to be adjusted because we have over millions, 140 million people that have been affected, and if everybody wants their $125, it will be much more than $700 million paying back from the settlement. So expect to have a smaller amount of a check issued to you by the Federal Trade Commission. Also, if you have been a victim of this data breach and you're paying money out of pocket to protect your data with lawyer fees and other expenses, you can also be compensated. So definitely keep track of all transactions or all expenses that you have with your lawyers and letters to creditors stating that it wasn't your responsibility for this particular transaction because your information was compromised by this Equifax data breach. Keep track of all this information and submit your payments in, and you will be compensated in the settlement. Folks, also next month is October, and it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Just wanted to put it out there. Federal Trade Commission and all federal agencies will be actively bringing out information regarding cybersecurity awareness training for everyone. Did you know also, folks, that when you go to a merchant, like a fast food restaurant or a regular restaurant or go to a store or retailer, and you use your credit or debit card, have you noticed that the merchant asking you for your ID or you're verifying your signature? Recently, people have been, even my clients have also stated that they've noticed that merchants aren't asking for the ID anymore. They're basically taking a credit card and running it through the machine, the POS, and processing a transaction without verifying the signature. They're doing this because they have other rules and regulations that can protect them. One is that they're stating that they don't touch the card or see the card. They're giving you the device in front of you, and you use the card reader machine yourself to complete your transaction. However, recently, before, merchants were asked the question, always verify the name on the card with an ID. They use your driver's license or some form of identification to verify your particular signature. Now, this can be a way to protect you, making sure that it's actually you on the card. However, some merchants aren't doing that anymore. They're just giving you the reader, and you put your credit card in and it reads your card information. This can be good and bad, folks, because if your cards are stolen, now merchants are not looking at it, and therefore if they're not looking at it, you have more chances of having your information compromised. So the moral of the story is, if a merchant shows you, or asks you that is, for your ID, thank them for that. That's a step they're doing to protect you as well as their company and their assets from cyber hackers. Also, the merchants now, they're looking to be more compliant or as a requirement from PCI, the payment card industry, and their standards is that they do not touch the cards anymore. So when you go get at a restaurant to get drinks or something, or products or services, the merchant will give you the card reader in front of you, allow you to insert the card yourself. So they are stating that they are not touching the cards anymore, which is a great idea, because in the past there's been incidents where you get these employees that cyber criminals that work for companies will make copies of credit cards or debit cards of their customers. Now merchants are moving away from that and giving the customer the opportunity to have a device in front of them where they can read it. So if you run into that, folks, thank the merchant for it. In the next story, we talk about hackers who are using SIM swapping to take over your phone. That's right, folks. This is really an interesting crime. Hackers will Remember we talked earlier about hackers put together a jigsaw puzzle of your personal information? Well, once they get information about you, they can contact your phone company, your cellular phone provider, and pretend to be you by asking the related questions with your personal identifiable information. Now, convincing the phone carrier that they are you, because they have acquired your personal identifiable information, they can then change your password on your account and have all calls directed to a different number, thereby having access to your phone. Hackers using information like your mother's maiden name, your birth date, those are personal identifiable information about you that carriers are asking when you're on the phone to verify that you are who you say you are. Some of the things that are happening now, some of the things to prevent this, is a technique called two-tier authentication, where when you contact a carrier, they will send information to your phone or have another way to verify that you are the person that you state that you are. This is very, very prevalent, folks. It's happening a lot, especially on Twitter accounts and social media, where information has been changed in social media because hackers were able to acquire a victim's phone, the SIM card, and log in as them and start to create all kinds of havoc in their name. The latest news also shows that carriers are looking to create other ways to protect victims of this by recommending that everyone change your password on a regular basis. You have a separate password for each particular website that you visit, so you're not using the same one. This can give you an extra layer of protection. Also, if you have seen your information or you're concerned about your information being hacked, there's a website you can go to. It's called Have I Been Pwned? That's HAVEIBENPWNED.com. If you go to this website, enter your email address, and it will tell you any database over the last 10 years that have been hacked by hackers. And if your email address comes up in this database, make sure that you change your password immediately. It'll give you an extra layer of protection and to avoid being attacked from any further incidents with hackers. Folks, like to find out more information about Technology Review, make sure you go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Technology Review. Remember to like and share information about Technology Review. We're also on Twitter at twitter.com/Mack Jackson Jr. Remember to subscribe, like, and repost the show, folks. And on YouTube, make sure at the bottom of the screen here that you leave us a comment what you think about our show and everything. Your comments and your email messages will definitely be appreciated. We appreciate you guys, folks, and we'll be right back here at Technology Review after these messages.
Bookkeeping doesn't have to be a chore. Not with Intuit QuickBooks Enterprise software for business. You can run your entire business with QuickBooks software easily and accurately. Plus, there's less paperwork to keep track of, and that means less stress. Contact Mack Jackson Jr., a QuickBooks Pro advisor and trainer, to learn more. Call MJ Computer Concepts at 702-868-0808. That's 702-868-0808. And start breathing easier with QuickBooks Enterprise software for business.
Hello folks, welcome back to Technology Review. I'm your host, Mack Jackson Jr. In this segment, we call it Cybersecurity Awareness Training. Now, I also want to talk to you about, in this particular segment, ways that you can protect your devices from cybercrimes. A couple things that you could do is to make sure that your smart devices, such as your smartphone or your tablets, have antivirus software on it and a VPN. The VPN is when you wish to use a hotspot in a coffee shop or a hotel or outside of your protected Wi-Fi security. Having a VPN is a virtual private network that gives you an extra layer of protection. And again, we talk about passwords. Passwords, folks, are, again, the easiest way, the most vulnerable way that your information can be acquired by hackers. Having a simple password that's used across the board for all the sites that you visit can make you very, very vulnerable to a cyber attack. You need to make sure you have individual passwords set up for every website that you visit. And do not write this information down on a piece of paper or even a spreadsheet, folks. The best way to secure the information is to have a password management system. There are several of them out there. The one that I utilize is called LastPass. It's LASTPASS.com. LastPass will encrypt all of your passwords and websites that you visit, and all you have to remember is one user ID and password. It's called LastPass.com. Now you can find all these apps or antivirus software for your smartphone and your tablets by going to the iTunes Store or the Google Store for these particular apps. In cybersecurity awareness training, folks, what it is education that everybody should acquire to understand the latest scams and techniques that hackers are using to try to compromise and get your information. Just by having one class and you're reading on it, you understand how to change your password, you think you're good, we'll let you know, folks, that hackers are doing this on a continuous campaign. It's no longer a one-off incident with a cyber attack. They're using campaigns to find any weaknesses or vulnerabilities within the systems of your personal home network or your business. The best way that you can fight this is by having a continuous training at least twice a year with cybersecurity awareness education, because businesses are the #1 source of identity theft and other crimes, according to the Federal Trade Commission, that hackers are using to get data. They do this quite simply because they understand that information is the new currency, and information is stored on servers and hard drives within organizations, and they're looking to acquire this information and sell it, of course, on the dark net. Businesses are realizing that their biggest threat is understanding and mapping their vulnerability with cyber threats. Businesses also have to become more aware and be proactive in their decision making when it comes to cybersecurity. 3 areas that can affect companies and can bring down a business include financial losses, reputational damage, and legal entanglements because of a cyber threat and a cyber attack. Just look at the media and you'll see countless companies on a daily basis hit by a cyber attack. But folks, if hackers are brazen enough to hit these large corporations with cyber attacks, I think about the small companies, small businesses who do not have million-dollar databases or SOCs within their organization to monitor threats of a cyber attack. Individual companies are very, very vulnerable. They're the low-hanging fruit that hackers are going after because they know that you're more vulnerable. You're not going to spend lots of money on these type of cyber preventative measures. Some of the things you could do to protect yourselves from these particular measures, besides just training, is to make sure that all of your hardware and software are in compliance with stated regulations. Yes, folks, stated regulations. That means the government is now coming down on businesses to make sure that they are in compliance with policies and procedures to protect customers, employees, and vendors' data and privacy information. We want to avoid a lot of that, folks, and one of the ways that we could do that is to make sure that internally we have our information supported and have our employees trained when it comes to cyber security. Some of the areas that you can be trained in cybersecurity are one of the ways you could do that is by creating policies within your organization related to cybersecurity awareness training. These policies include things like BYOD, bring your own device, training your employees on what devices are permitted on the premises of your organization, your company, that can give you extra layer of protection that can help thwart the idea of hackers compromising your internal WAN, your internal network systems. Training your employees that when they're at home, they make sure they're using passwords that are created in such a way that they are passphrases rather than just a simple password, making it harder for hackers to try to guess or figure out how to log into their network. Also understanding the vulnerabilities and threats that hackers are trying to do when it comes to acquire your information. These are just some of the things that you could do within your company to give you a little bit more support. But what I've suggested you do, folks, find out more about this, contact my company. It's Mack Jackson Jr. and Associates. You'll be able to find me at MackJacksonJr.com. That's MackJacksonJr.com. We have online training courses, folks, that will train your employees on the latest techniques that have been developed by Federal Trade Commission and other cybersecurity organizations around the world in protecting your data. You can contact our offices on this by going to my website at mackjacksonjr.com or sending me an email at info@mackjacksonjr.com. That's info@mackjacksonjr.com for information on cybersecurity awareness training and education for employees. So folks, thank you for joining us here this week. I also like you to go to our Patreon channel, folks, and support us. We would definitely appreciate you out there and information you provide for us, being part of our cybersecurity community. We'll have more news for you next week on what's happening in cybersecurity awareness, how it can affect you and your business. So until then, folks, we'll see you next week. Thank you. Hello, my name is Mack Jackson Jr. I'm a cybersecurity awareness professional. Today, most companies are aware of the importance of secure data systems within their organization. They have implemented the latest and greatest in security technology to protect their business from a global cyber threat. However, without employee training, their business could be more vulnerable than ever. A company with little to no employee training in cybersecurity awareness can open the floodgates to security vulnerabilities. One example is for companies that doesn't have a workplace policy enforced on using personal smart devices at work. These companies are more likely to experience data breaches instances. Companies that do not have consistent employee training will create a work environment that allows employees to work around any restrictions within an organization in order to get their work done. Company employees are the biggest assets and can be the weakest link to a data breach. It is in the best interest to create a training environment where all employees are aware of their responsibilities, risks, and understand how to mitigate the damages of a cyber attack. Employees should be the human firewall within an organization that looks for suspicious activities and reports them to management. Cybersecurity awareness training can also benefit the employee by showing the employee how to protect their home computers and personal smart devices from cyber criminals. A recent business survey shows that 93% of all American adults have had no cybersecurity training. With identity theft being the #1 crime in America, this stat should sound alarm for all businesses to provide cybersecurity awareness training to all their employees. Just look at the U.S. companies hit by cyber attacks, including Target, Sony, Equifax, and Facebook, and hundreds more. If attackers can attack these large corporations, imagine what they can do to your business. Our best defense against a cyber attack is through our employees, through education. At MJ Computer Concepts University, you will have access to comprehensive courses on cybersecurity awareness training for all your employees and management staff. We welcome you to our training program.